Hey, Walt here with StogieReview.com for another video cigar review. This time around I'm doing the Drew Estate Undercrown Gran Toro. And I wasn't planning on doing this review at all. It didn't make a whole lot of sense it just didn't seem to make a lot of sense because recently I did a video on the Drew Estate Undercrown Dogma, and to have the same cigar twice, you know, just different sizes within a really short time frame, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But I was sitting here, I'm smoking the cigar, I'm watching an episode of The Sopranos, and the urge to fire up the camera just kind of struck me. I was reading through some comments on the last review, the back to basics review I did, where the video ran close to 20 minutes, and inspiration struck. I just felt like turning the camera on, so I thought I'd do that. I'd redo the review on the Undercrown. The Gran Toro is considerably different than the Dogma in terms of taste, and this one is readily available anywhere, so it's not like we're retouching on a limited edition release. So that's kind of where we're at. You caught me not quite halfway through, but I've been smoking this for a little while now, and things are going pretty good. I have a history of batting about 500 with the Undercrown line. Some of them smoke beautifully and do really well, and other ones are just a pain. Something is wrong, whether it's the draw is too tight or just some sort of issue comes up, burn issue, whatever. It seems like for every really good one I have one that's kind of annoying, and this one is no different. So think back, I don't want to say think back to when you were a kid, but remember going to kids' birthday parties, or just parties for kids in general. They used to have these little party favors. It was like kind of like a plastic handle, maybe yay long, and then on the end of it there was that wrapped up kind of like tissue paper, kind of swirled around and around and around, and the objective was to flick your wrist, and the paper would shoot out, and you'd get this big long kind of streamer going, and after you flicked your wrist it would coil back up and pop back into your hand. That's kind of what I had happen here. I had just the tiniest little piece of cap get stuck to my lip, and as I pulled the cigar away from my face, the whole thing just unraveled, and it looked like one of those party favors. I couldn't believe it. So I had to, like, wet my finger a little bit, wet the wet the cigar, roll the cap back around, do it again and again and again until I got everything back into smoking shape, because when the whole mass is loose at the top, it's just airy. So we're back to smokable now. It seems to be holding, but I have to keep kind of fixing it as we go, and that's one of the issues that I've run into with the Undercrown line. It's just little issues like this popping up. In this case, it's kind of a minor issue. I'm able to fix it, and it's not really destroying the cigar. If it were a burn issue, or it wasn't burning right, or there's a big giant tunnel in it, or something, something going on, that I would consider a major issue. So this one's more of an annoyance than anything else. Smoke volume's good. It coats the palate well. It's kind of thin. When you smoke the larger Undercrowns, the texture of the smoke strikes me as just thin, kind of watered down, and the flavors are kind of muted and dull, but they don't have quite the same watered down quality that the actual smoke does. So in terms of body, I would say this is medium, maybe mild to medium, strictly speaking of body and the way the smoke coats the palate. Flavor-wise, in terms of flavor intensity, I think that this is closer to mild to medium as well. It's just, the flavors just strike me as just being light. It's like the less filling version of T52 or number 9, where they have richer flavors that hang on the palate a little bit longer. I think once you get up past the Corona size, the Viva in the Undercrown line, the flavors, they just can become watery and much less appealing. But I do like buying the Toros. They're bigger, they smoke a bit longer, they're more a perceived value. I don't know that they realistically are a better value, but they're a better perceived value in my mind because I get to smoke them longer, and while they are sort of light-ish, I do enjoy them. So I don't mind things being a little bit light. Although I do prefer the smaller size, the Corona, the Viva. That's kind of the bread and butter as far as the Undercrown line goes. So this one's doing pretty well so far. I've got an issue with construction. The body is medium, mild to medium. Flavor intensities, mild to medium. There isn't a whole lot of power behind this cigar. When you retrohale the smoke, there's there's a sprinkling of spice, but it's really not overwhelming. It's not heavy. It's just kind of a little dash of spice thrown in. Flavor-wise, I'm getting kind of some woody taste. I'm talking kind of a lot, and as a result, I have to touch up the cigar. It's that awkward dead air moment where I really don't have anything to say while I'm touching up the cigar. It's got a little bit of a leather taste, a little bit of a woody taste, almost cedary. And that's about it. Maybe lingering taste, maybe something along the lines of citrus-like. So it's got what I visually think of as light flavors, or yeah, I guess light is probably the best description for it, as opposed to dark flavors. It's getting kind of weird, but that's where I'm at the moment. So I'm going to smoke a little bit more of my cigar. I'll come back, we'll talk a little bit more, see how it progresses. I've already had the cap lift back up on me, so I'll have to fix that, and we'll go from there. Son of a bitch. There's your party favor thing going on here. So at the beginning of the video, I talked about watching an episode of The Sopranos while I smoked this cigar, and it's one of those television shows that it's fun to watch while you're smoking a cigar. It's got that mobster vibe. There's a lot of cigar smoking going on, so you can relate. It's fun to watch. But The Sopranos has been off the air for a few years, and I'm watching it now for the first time. 2 months ago, I did what many people think of as unthinkable. I cut cable. For the last couple of years, prices have been going up steadily every year, and it's been incredibly frustrating dealing with Comcast, who's my internet service provider as well as my cable television provider. They would set me up with a package, and then 12 months later, the pricing structure of the package would expire, and I would have to pick up the phone and call them because, suddenly I'd get a bill where the monthly bill was higher than it was the previous month because the pricing expired. So I'd call them up and they'd give me the runaround, and we can only give you special pricing if you upgrade your package. You can't go backwards and still save money, and it's just been jumping through hoops every year, and every year I wind up paying more for cable. So this year we were up to about $145 a month for the digital preferred package, which was basically your run-of-the-mill cable package with a couple of the channels thrown in. So I was getting stuff like the Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel, AMC, Spike TV, things like that. And I found out we really weren't watching a whole lot of TV. My daughter was watching a lot of it, but it was a lot of on-demand stuff, cartoons spread throughout the day. I used to watch a lot of the mindless stuff, just my wife's is either working or in school, so we don't see a whole lot of one another, and I can only stand so many cartoons. So when my daughter would go watch, an episode of Dora the Explorer for the 500th time, that same episode, I just couldn't stand it. So I'd go watch something else on another TV. And I discovered that we really weren't taking advantage of the package that we had, because what I like to watch is old reruns. I love sitting down and watching an episode of MASH. I've seen every single episode of MASH, but still, I can't turn it off. You know, I just like watching it, and I found that I'm always watching these retro TV shows. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to be paying, you know, $145 a month for, you know, HD service that I wasn't using. I mean, even if MASH is in HD, it's still something that was recorded, you know, in the 80s. So there's not a whole lot of translation there. So my wife and I discussed it. When our package pricing expired, we were going to just dump cable altogether. And when that happened, I got a bill that went from $145 to like $168-ish, somewhere around there. So I called up Comcast, and as soon as they heard I was canceling, of course, you know, the deals are raining down on me. I stuck to my guns, and I canceled everything but my cable internet service. I need it for work, and we use it a lot. We use it for streaming and whatnot. So the first couple of days that happened, where we had no cable, it was... everyone, I think, was a little high-strung because there was just nothing to watch. I hooked up an antenna that I have on my roof to our living room TV, and then I got these little flat antennas for our other TVs, and that kind of worked out good. We got like 14 or 15 channels. Two of the available channels were these old retro stations, so I got like Antenna TV and Memorable Entertainment Television. So it was pretty cool. I'm watching episodes of Annie Griffith and Bewitched and, you know, all these other shows that I watched when I was a kid. So I really didn't mind not having cable, but it was driving my daughter nuts. You know, she lost Dora the Explorer and some other stuff that she was watching on a regular basis, Paw Patrol, and eventually everyone sort of settled into their own rhythm. And, you know, we found things on Netflix to watch, found things on Amazon Prime to watch. I won't pay for Hulu Plus because I won't pay to watch ads. That's just stupid. So I'm not paying for a Hulu Plus subscription so that I can watch commercials throughout the broadcast. So things have been going, you know, fairly well on the TV front, and I've been watching a lot of stuff on Netflix. I went through all of the 70s show, which I started watching long before we cut cable. I think there were like 200 and some episodes of that. I watched through the vast majority of House MD on Netflix, and right now I started in on The Sopranos on Amazon Prime. Since HBO and Amazon cut a deal, the older HBO series are available for free streaming for Prime members, and I've been watching. I'm up to season 4 of The Sopranos, so I've been watching it quite a lot. I like sitting down at my laptop to work, you know, with that 9-hour stretch a day where I'm supposed to actually be working for money, and I'll leave the TV on in the background and just kind of look up and watch The Sopranos, or I'll grab my laptop and then I'll set up my iPad next to it and I'll, you know, stream something so that I can kind of bounce back and forth between watching something and working. So it's been pretty cool. Our cable package, or our Comcast bill, went from, you know, $160 some at the highest down to just under $75 a month, and we bumped up from the 20 megabit package for internet service up to the next tier, which doubled, and I think we're getting like 105. The next tier I think was like 56 or something, and then Comcast doubled it across the country, or at least across the area, for the same price. So basically we went from 20 megabits up to 105, and streaming has been awesome. You know, I'll watch something down here, my daughter will watch something on the other TV, or my wife will watch something, and it all works really well. My wife and I are going through episodes of Dexter. She never watched it. I've seen them all, but it's kind of one of the things that we're doing together. You know, at night before we go to bed, we'll watch an episode of Dexter together, and that's been really cool. Again, I've seen them, but she hasn't, so it's kind of fun watching her watch this show and try to pick out what's going on, and I already know what's going to happen, so it's been kind of fun. But that's kind of the TV. That is what, pushing 6 or 7 minutes on this segment on TV, and nothing to do with the cigar, just because I'm smoking a cigar while watching The Sopranos. So I'm going to smoke a little bit more. I'm going to watch someone get whacked, and I'll be back. We'll talk a little bit more about the cigar. Maybe we'll wrap it up, and I'll let you be on your way. Alright, getting back to the Undercrown. So the last review I did on the Sancho Panza Extra Fuerte, and in that review I talked about getting a 10-pack for $19.95 at Atlantic Cigar. as one of their specials. So while I was on there ordering up stuff to buy, I was poking around looking at the other specials. And I don't know how many pages I got in, but finally I stumbled onto this deal. I think it was like $45. It was 5 Undercrown and 5 of the EP Carrillo Maduros, or the EP Carrillo Cardinals. And you know, for the money, it was just something I couldn't turn down. So I tacked it onto my order of the Sancho Panzas, and this also came from Atlantic. This wasn't packaged quite as well as the Sancho Panzas were in that humidibag of sorts. This looked like it was more like a pre-packaged 10-pack. You know, it was 5 of the Undercrown, 5 of the EPC, and they were just kind of in an oversized Ziploc bag. And I've seen that deal before. I've bought that same 10-pack elsewhere. So I don't know if it's kind of, if it was almost like a retailer, not a retailer, but a distributor special that went out to various retailers, because I bought this very same deal, the same 5 and 5, same Vitolas from Famous. I bought them on Cigar Monster a little while back. They were a little bit less expensive, but I got the same assortment a while ago, and I thought it was a good deal then. And even at a little bit more, you know, like $40 or so, 40, 45. I think it might have been closer to 40. I still think it was a really good deal. So $40 over 10 cigars, $4 a stick. And I think the Undercrown, when purchased in multiples, where you're getting the cigar for $4 or $5, is an excellent buy. On the other hand, if you're going into your local cigar shop and you're picking these up for $8, for instance, I looked these up just before I turned the camera on Famous. They're $7.95 for a single Gran Toro 6x52. They are about $30 a 5-pack, and they are $140 a box of 24. At that pricing, $8.95 or $7.95, I think they're too much. I don't like paying that price. Cigars International has them for right around, you know, the $8 range, you know, between $8 and $9 per single. And while I do buy them occasionally from Cigars International, I only buy them because I don't have the $14 for a number 9 or a T52, and that's the only reason I buy them. It's kind of like a poor man's Liga Privada. No bad intentions intended there. It's a cigar that I enjoy, but this isn't up to snuff with, you know, the number 9 or the T52, and I only tend to buy them as an alternative when I'm purchasing by the single. If I see a deal, you know, for $25-30 a 5-pack, or I see them bulked in with, you know, for instance, the EP Carrillo Cardinals, I think they're a stellar buy, and if I've got the money, I order them. It's just, I think that they're that good. Even though these aren't nearly as good as the Viva, the Corona size, I still think they're well worth it. When you buy them as some sort of package special, at $8, I think there are better cigars out there. And especially with my history of having one good one for one bad one, or I should say one good one for one moderately troublesome one, I think they're good. They're a good buy in volume, but not so much as a single. You know, it's kind of funny. You take a puff on this Undercrown Gran Toro, and the smoke has this very light and airy sort of quality about it. It doesn't linger on the palate. It doesn't have that heavy, oily texture. It's just kind of light, and the flavor profile comes off as kind of light. And in your mind, you just envision sort of a light smoke, and it smokes that way. But in this room, it's like there's a fire or something. It is incredibly thick. Just looking from one side of the room to the other, which isn't a very big office, by the way. It's, I don't know, maybe 12 feet across. It is really hazy. My exhaust fan can't keep up with it, and it's just amazing the smoke that this cigar puts off, and yet it still hits the palate and gives you that light and airy perception. It smokes, in terms of the resting smoke and how much smoke is filling the air, it reminds me of the PDR line, the 1875, I think they are, the really inexpensive Pinar del Rio stuff. Man, they just put off smoke like crazy. they're like a smokestack, and my exhaust fan can't keep up with those either. And it's just kind of interesting that it's so smoky in here, and yet the again on the palate it just comes off as light and almost fluffy. So it's kind of interesting. Flavor wise, there hasn't been a whole lot of change between when I started and now. There has been a build-up in intensity. It's a little richer, but it's still something that I would consider medium flavored. Medium-bodied, medium-flavored. There isn't a whole lot of power behind this cigar. It's not one of those ones where you give it to a rookie or a newbie, and they'd get kind of green around the gills and whatnot because they're not accustomed to the nicotine that comes in a cigar. This is something that I think a lot of people could enjoy. And this is something you can smoke early on in the day, and I have on numerous occasions, without any issue. A lot of times, I get up really early for work. Generally, my alarm goes off at 4 o'clock, and I go into work 3 days a week. 2 days a week I work from home. And my wife's day starts a bit later than mine, actually considerably later than mine. I think she needs to be in work on most days at around 7. So I'll get up at 4, jump in the shower, do my thing, and then I'll come down here and I'll start to work from home, and I'll generally have a cigar before I ever have breakfast. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to get up and cook breakfast and get ready for the day, and then have to do it all over again when my daughter wakes up a couple of hours later after my wife leaves. So generally we try to do all that stuff all at once, and a lot of times I wind up smoking a cigar before breakfast. I'll have a morning cigar with coffee, and then I'll eat later on. And this is something that I can have before breakfast and not feel sick. There are some cigars where I won't attempt it, before getting something in my stomach. But the Undercrown is not one of them. It still has that cedar taste. A little bit of a leathery taste, just a little bit of saltiness that hits the tongue, and that almost citrusy note seems to be really washed out. It's kind of there and is melding in with the other stuff. It makes for a kind of a funky aftertaste that's the aftertaste, but it's not bad. I enjoy these cigars, but I think the smaller Vitolas are where it's at. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but the Viva is where it's at. If I was going to rank a number 2, it would probably be the Dogma, and the larger sizes kind of fall in line after that. So it's a good solid cigar. If you can buy them in multiples, in 5-packs or in some sort of package deal, they are well worth the money. But if you're stopping into your cigar shop for $8 a single, I think you can do better. It's not to say you shouldn't try these or smoke these, but for the money, I think there are better cigars out there when buying by the single in a cigar shop. I want to stress that. If you're buying online, these are a really good buy if you can get them in some sort of package deal. So that's going to close out the review. Hope you enjoyed this sort of back to basics, if you will, review. The last one I did, the Sancho Panza Extra Fuerte, I think it ran about 20 minutes. I don't know where this one's going to come in at. I really wasn't paying much attention. But the comments on that review were incredibly awesome. They inspired me to do this again, and it's what I enjoy doing, just turning the camera on and talk and not worrying about, staying under 6 minutes or 7 minutes, because, we've got a condensed time frame or just a condensed attention span. It's just fun to do these. I realize I rambled on quite a bit about, my cable TV service, but it kind of is what it is, and it's just fun to do this kind of thing. Jerry and I have been talking quite a bit for the last few months about doing a spin-off of YQMA that's quite a bit different, but same format. We've been saying we were going to do it for quite a while now. I think with him coming off a hiatus and in the position I'm in now, I think that is very likely to happen, and I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know if and when it is going to take place, but I keep prodding Jerry. I keep telling him, we need to get this thing taken care of, because he seems to be reinvigorated as well. So thank you all for the variety of comments that came on that last review. I look forward to seeing some more comments on this review. So if you're on Stogie Review, go right down there and fill out the comment field. Tell me what you think of the Undercrown lineup, and share your thoughts in the comments section. So take it easy, happy smoking, and I will see you next time.